Time now for a look at the French papers. Belle Lupton is with us. She spent her morning scouring through them. Belle, I can see there the front page of many of them has this trip by French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius to Iran.
It does. Now, this is the first visit by a French diplomat to Iran for 12 years, and it comes 15 days after the nuclear deal was signed with Iran and those P+5 other countries. Now, the aim of this visit, according to Le Figaro, is to reopen dialogue between France and Iran. So the headline that Le Figaro goes with, obviously, it's got its front page on there. The headline it goes in the article is, it wants that France is trying to break the ice with Iran. Apparently, François Hollande wants the Iranian president to prove that his country can smooth the way to a solution in the region's many crises, particularly, of course, in Syria he's talking about. Now, Hollande has warned Fabius, the foreign minister, that Fabius represents France, and so all eyes in France will be on his reception in Tehran, because that will be taken as an indication of Iran's attitude towards France in the future. Now, that's kind of a way of Hollande it's a sort of way for him to address Fabius's image in Iran, which isn't very good, because he took a very hardline position in those negotiations 2 weeks ago, and so has not been the most popular man in Iran. Now, Libération, a slightly more left-wing paper in France, talks about a campaign of denigration in Iran against Fabius. A lot of the conservative press in Iran have attacked Fabius over the last few days. So one of the things that they've taken and picked up, they've raked over this episode that happened in the 1980s when Fabius was prime minister. Blood was sent over to Iran for medical use from France, and it turned out that that blood was contaminated. Now, apparently, according to Iranian figures, 125 people died, Iranian people died, as a result of that contaminated blood. And so they're out to get Fabius, and they're out for Fabius's blood, you might say. The Iranian press has called on a boycott of his visit. Now, all of this is something Fabius doesn't particularly want to go into, as he says in an interview with Le Parisien. He describes the French position in nuclear negotiations as one of constructive vigilance. Iran, he says, has suffered greatly from the sanctions, so he sounds a little bit more conciliatory there.
When you mentioned there Iran suffering from the sanctions, one thing everybody wants to know is business on or off the table during this visit? Is that being picked up by the press?
It has a little bit, and to the point where it's, by some papers, seen quite cynically as the prime or the sole purpose of his visit. You know, ostensibly he's there for a political kind of rapprochement, but a lot of papers think he's really there just to lay the groundwork for more business relations when the trade can open again, when those sanctions are eased. So Fabius talks about an excellent French way of doing things that's recognised in Iran in a Catholic paper, Lacroix. He's becoming, it seems, a little bit of a salesman rather than a politician here. So Lacroix also talks about Iran as the new El Dorado. You can see it there, the Nouvelle El Dorado. It's got 80 million consumers, huge demand across all sectors, whether it's infrastructure, hydrocarbon, cars, and France is expecting rather a lot from this country. So the Lacroix asks, could we see France abandoning some of its, a lot of Iranians on the right will call its defence of Israeli and Saudi interests in order to appeal to Iran? Well, according to Le Monde, not for the moment anyway, because France welcomed the Saudi King Salman to its shores for his holiday, which happened in the south of France. Now, King Salman has a massive property on the Côte d'Azur down in the south of France, and earlier in the week, a little scandal erupted when it transpired that the beach leading from his property to the sea was going to be closed to the public.
Privatised, yeah.
Exactly, during his stay. So for the length of his stay, no public would be allowed on this beach. Now, the king has been making waves once again, this time because he asked for a female member of the guard team, the security team that look after his villa, to be removed, obviously because of the gender implications for him. Now, this obviously has been capturing quite a lot of attention in Le Monde in France as well. Apparently, again, according to Le Monde's website, that agent, after this fracas, was kept on.
Okay, interesting one. Now, back again, French politics. There's new measures being pushed through by the Socialist Party, and it has businessmen worried.
It does. So in business paper Les Echos, Pierre Gattaz, who is the head of France's biggest business lobby, is worried, he says, about the reorientation of Hollande's Social Responsibility Pact. Now, this was voted in by Hollande's Socialist Party on Monday night, and Gattaz thinks that this is going to make life harder for businesses. So he fears that that reduced business charges that businesses were promised are going to be slightly tempered, slightly altered, so they won't be there anymore, to the tune of 15 billion euros, he thinks, which he can see slipping away from him. So a warning from Le Figaro, who picks up this story as well, or which picks up this story as well, and it says all extra social care, all extra taxes equals more unemployment, which obviously is a really burning issue here in France.
Okay, well, finally, there's a story that has made it now from the UK over to France and hit the French papers 2 or 3 days later.
Yeah, so the story broke on Sunday, in the Sun on Sunday, with an image of a Labour peer in the British House of Lords who was seen on film snorting cocaine from a prostitute's breasts. Here he is in a photo wearing a prostitute's bra while he has a cigarette. He was dubbed Lord Coke by The Sun. Now, it's taken a few days, but he's crossed the channel, or rather this story has crossed the channel. It's captured the French imagination. It's the top story on Le Monde's website, on their international section, not least because Lord Sewell was the one charged with cleaning up the upper chamber. So the irony there has crossed the channel. Now, he's resigned since this all came to light, and that conjures up images for the French, of course, of Dominique Strauss-Kahn. So it's another of these politicians, engaged in all sorts of illicit affairs. I mean, kind of veering towards the bunga, if you want to go to that direction. Anyway, there's a quote in Le Monde from Lord Sewell himself, which is, "Scandals make good stories." And of course, he's now found out how much that is true.
I know, he's not exactly wrong on that, I guess. Okay, Belle Lupton with the French papers, thanks indeed for that. That brings us to the end of this edition. Do take care.